Taiwan. I'm Ethan Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's premier has called for more local government inspections following a recent fallout from the contaminated cooking oil scandal.
4月1号的产品在宜兰县被发现，难道其他县市没有吗？但迄今未见其他县市真的用心在查，所以我也要求各县市务必要再重新的盘整。
Oil tainted with carcinogens sparked the recall of over 400 products and led to a nationwide food safety review. Politicians have questioned the central government's role in allowing so many products to get past safety checks. The opposition Kuomintang says it will hold a rally next Saturday calling for accountability and the resignation of Premier Zhuo.
我们到底吃下了多少毒油？人民到现在没办法得到中央政府一个清楚的说明。 到现在，民众的要求非常的卑微，就是要一个真相。
Taiwan's cabinet is set to discuss amendments to the food safety law next Thursday. A mountain barrier lake in eastern Taiwan has been on the brink of flooding for several days. Where authorities thought it would overflow already, a new landslide has made the timing of a potential breach difficult to predict. Ellen Lu reports.
This barrier lake, nestled in the mountains of eastern Taiwan, was expected to overflow yesterday. Now, it's become even more unpredictable. The Wanli River Barrier Lake in Hualien has been under a red alert, meaning a risk of major flooding. This prompted the mandatory evacuation of nearby residents. Forestry officials have flown several drone missions to closely monitor the site. On Friday afternoon, the water level had reached the lake's original overflow point. While water seepage has been observed, a fresh landslide raised the height of the overflow channel by about 1.5 meters, making it even harder to predict whether the lake's overflow will be delayed or could happen with little warning.
就是渗流的情形加剧之后，它会不会直接就溢流所以这个没有办法估算。
Since Typhoon Bavi swept across Taiwan last week, the Wanli River Barrier Lake has triggered multiple red alerts. The Hualien County government says some evacuated residents have been staying in shelters for a week or even longer, with many on the brink of emotional breakdown.
情绪浮躁了，所以我们花莲县政府就派出新王所的心理师，还有咨商师呢，到收容所给予辅导。
The threats posed by the barrier lake has also disrupted train services, as well as residents' daily commutes to work and school. With the situation constantly evolving, authorities are now forecasting the earliest possible overflow around midnight on July 20th. Leon Lian and Ellen Lu for TaiwanPlus.
TSMC is back in the global spotlight after announcing another massive investment in the U.S. Taiwan says the move will strengthen its technological influence worldwide while seeking to ease concerns that expansion could weaken the domestic economy. Aichi reports.
TSMC has announced another $100 billion investments in the U.S. earmarked for building more fabs in Arizona. Taiwan's government says the chipmaker's expansion will enhance the country's strategic role in the global AI and semiconductor supply chains. To maintain Taiwan's chipmaking leadership, the government will focus on three priorities: maximizing domestic manufacturing, keeping cutting-edge technology at home, and protecting Taiwan's entire tech ecosystem. TSMC's total investments in the United States is the largest for investments in U.S. history, sparking concerns that the company could shift a key driver of Taiwan's economy overseas. U.S. officials in Taiwan are working to ease those fears.
不是离开台湾，而是透过在美国建立新的据点，更贴近市场，更贴近客户，更深入与全球创新生态系。例如，台积电昨天宣布在加码投资美国1000亿美元，就是为了因应强劲的客户需求。
Still, concerns over TSMC's move weighed on the market, with the firm's stock and the broader TAIEX falling. Industry experts say the movement of technology overseas has to do with customer demand and Taiwanese firms' competitiveness in the global market.
那如果客户端他要求你这个技术到那边设厂，他会满足你整个需求。我想这 最终还是不得不选择哦。那有时候客户端他也不是单一找我们台商哦，他也是全球在找，谁愿意配合的，他可能愿意跟他做一个永久的这个供应链。
As the global AI boom continues, Taiwan sits at the center of the hardware supply chain. Officials from the Arizona Taiwan Trade and Investment Office say Taiwan's latest move will only accelerate U.S. investment. It is also expected to encourage supply chain partners to follow and grow alongside it.
那台积电在亚利桑那至少12个厂以上起跳，那么这样的一个经济的规模量体，也不得不让我们的供应链下定决心，所以我们应该看得到接下来的供应链的投资会一波一波的跟进。
With the U.S. driving global AI growth and expanding advanced semiconductor manufacturing capabilities, more Taiwanese tech firms are expected to widen their footprint to compete and meet market demand. Andy Xie, Ted Chen, and IT for TaiwanPlus.
Global tech stocks fell sharply on Friday as investors questioned the future of the AI boom. The sell-off came after Chinese AI firms released lower-cost models they think can compete with leading U.S. technology. Investors are reassessing whether massive AI spending by companies like NVIDIA, Google, and Meta can deliver enough returns. The concerns are also affecting the broader semiconductor sector, with chip stocks falling across Asia. Taiwan's TAIEX was down more than 6% on Friday. Reports say America's lead in advanced AI is shrinking as Chinese labs race to make frontier-level artificial intelligence cheaper and more widely available. Chinese startup Moonshot AI has unveiled Kimi K3, an open-weight artificial intelligence model. The company says it rivals leading models by U.S. companies, including Anthropic and OpenAI, in coding, general reasoning, and cost. The launch comes just before the 2026 World Artificial Intelligence Conference in Shanghai, where Chinese President Xi Jinping promoted China as a leader in global AI development. Following Kimi K3's release, White House AI advisor David Sachs warned that the U.S. risks losing its lead to China. The comments come as Washington debates how to regulate AI while maintaining its competitive edge. To discuss the impact of these frontier models on AI governance and the intensifying U.S.-China AI race, Lila Martina spoke to Julia Neer, research analyst at the Stimson Center.
Hi, Julia. There's been a growing debate in Washington over AI regulation. Why was Anthropic's Mythos such a pivotal moment, and what do you think policymakers took away from it?
The issue really, from a cyber perspective with Mythos, was the capability to identify vulnerabilities at scale, at a speed and with a comprehensiveness that had not really been present before. And so when I talk about the Mythos moment, I'm talking about kind of the response to this announcement. The U.S. government in particular, up until now, has had a very hands-off approach to AI, and what Mythos was in this case. It was a concrete demonstration of the cyber capabilities of advanced frontier models in a way that made government kind of stop and say, okay, you know what, this actually is dangerous. We need to do something about it. It sparked kind of like a chain of events of people, particularly in the U.S. government, trying to figure out how to regulate it, how to restrict access to these kinds of models. And the access restriction piece is where I think kind of the wrong lesson comes in here.
So the U.S. approach has largely been focused on limiting access to these advanced models to prevent them from falling into the hands of bad actors. Why do you believe this can't work in the long term?
China is obviously doing extremely well in open models right now. Many of the most advanced open models are coming out of China. Mythos is currently the only model that we know of that has this level of advanced cyber capability. But like I said, 9 months, a year from now, we're almost certain to see that same level of advancement in open spaces. And so I think that for the US government, a year from now, they're going to need to be considering either blocking access to open models, which is something that they can only really enforce in the US, or they can try to engage in trade diplomacy or in this kind of like AI development, deployment, export diplomacy that's been happening coming out of the US recently. But they're not really going to reliably be able to block bad actors in foreign countries from using advanced open models. And the last piece, just about the wrong lesson, is that I think partly with Mythos and Anthropic, I worry about setting a precedent where Silicon Valley is the one who tells us when and how we're able to access AI models without a lot of input from the public or even from government stakeholders.
You argued that government should focus less on restricting access and more on building resilience. What would that approach look like in practice?
Well, I think that actually supporting open model infrastructure is a great way to build up our resiliency within the U.S. I think that one of the great advantages of openness is the ability for kind of community auditing, review of code, deployment of code in different contexts, and kind of insight into potential cyber vulnerabilities and risks. I also think, as I mentioned before, there is low-hanging fruit that already exists in the cyber domain. So for example, with Mythos, we're seeing a really sped up rate at which vulnerabilities can be detected and located. We really need to have the infrastructure to then address and patch those vulnerabilities as they come up. So this could look like funding better systems that provide risk management frameworks coming out of the US government that give companies guidance on how to boost their internal processes. It could look like direct funding or tax incentives for better cybersecurity practices. There are a whole kind of range of different approaches that the government could take and that I think we should be considering more seriously.
That was Julia Nearer at the Stimson Center. The U.S. has expressed deep concern over reports that Papua New Guinea will close its Taiwan representative office. Reuters is reporting that the U.S. Department is deeply concerned by accounts that Papua New Guinea has unilaterally ordered the closure of the Taipei Economic Office in Port Moresby. The statement came after the Pacific Island nation's foreign minister announced the closure on Thursday, a move praised by Beijing. Taiwan's foreign ministry has rejected the decision, saying it was never officially informed of the action. It says its representative office in Papua New Guinea will continue its normal operations. Coral reefs around the world are under threat from climate change. Now a team of scientists from Taiwan are trying to aid their recovery with the help of an unlikely material. Tiffany Wong has more.
Oysters, shells, and dead coral reefs. This ocean debris is getting a new life thanks to a team from the Department of Architecture at Taiwan's National Cheng Kung University. They say this ocean debris can be recycled into weirs. Think oceanic trellises or scaffolding for coral to grow on. And they're using 3D printing techniques to create the right kind of structure.
它的结构要非常稳定，不会被海流冲走，可以让鱼虾在这边浮游。因为要插枝，所以要有很多洞。未来这些研发成功，也可以变成生态教育。大家浮潜的时候到水下，也可以看到这一些跟生态共存共荣的一些状况。
These 3D printed weirs made of recycled ocean materials present a surprisingly sturdy foundation for coral to grow on. And researchers in other countries like Belgium and Denmark are also interested in this technology.
把传统的石斛转换为新形态的石斛，然后用我们设计的构法、跟我们设计的系统，还有这些循环材料，然后把它放置在旧石斛旁边。
The islands of Penghu in the Taiwan Strait are known for their traditional stone weirs, which serve as habitats for some fish. But as these new ones replace them, locals hope they can also usher in a new age for ecotourism.
整个海洋生态已经有一点浩劫了，那我们用这个计划来把它转化为观光，然后一些游程的一些算是做成一个环境教育。这个方面来讲，澎湖乡亲是很期待的。
If the team's technology succeeds in revitalizing the vacation spots, coral reefs, and habitats, it could attract more visitors looking for underwater beauty. John Su and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we leave you with images of sea turtles going for a swim in a channel near Pingdong. I'm Ethan Liu. Take care, and I'll see you next time.